It's the time of year when everybody runs up to me on the street and begs me to tell them what the best virtual console game is. Actually, nobody's ever asked me what the best virtual console game is. Nobody cares about the virtual console anymore. They don't care that there were 25 games released last year, and, that's more than the 18 that were released the year before. They don't care about that. They don't care that they saw a bunch of long-awaited SNK hits this year. It was great. They're too busy playing their popular games, being around their popular friends, drinking their popular drinks. You disgust me. Anyway, in case you care, here are the top 25 virtual console games of 2012. In order, because there's a top 20 list. Jesus, keep up. Number 25. Coming late in the year, Burger Time failed to hold my interest for long. Perhaps it's because I already got my fix playing the surprisingly solid Game Boy port released last year on the 3DS Virtual Console. Or maybe it's that the action is limited and gets old quickly. Sorry, Peter Pepper, somebody has to be there to start out our top 25 list. 24! Now here's a game that should connect with me. That's robots playing baseball. How can anybody get that wrong? The problem is that this game gets the core fundamentals of baseball wrong, making 2020 Super Baseball nothing more than a good idea, squandering its potential. I would love to see this series resurrected now that everybody knows how to make a baseball simulator. 23. If Wonderboy in Monsterland looks familiar, it's because Nintendo already uploaded it to the Virtual Console. This is the more expensive arcade port of a Sega Master System game that hit the Virtual Console 3 years ago. Wonderboy in Monsterland remains a solid action-adventure. There's something shady about the way Nintendo and Sega are double-dipping. 22. The first of many SNK fighting games to hit the Virtual Console in 2012. Real Bout Fatal Fury isn't a bad game. In fact, this is one of SNK's greatest accomplishments when it first came out. But Nintendo decided to upload this after 2 other Real Bout releases, both of which we'll get to much later in this top 25 list. A solid game screwed over by Nintendo's questionable release schedule. 21. Owners of the Metal Slug Anthology already know that Metal Slug X has been available on the Wii for 6 years now. Apparently, Nintendo didn't get the message, as here we have yet another re-release of SNK's beloved 2D action game. Metal Slug X may be a fun game, but there are better installments already out on the Virtual Console. And when it comes right down to it, you're better off buying the Metal Slug Anthology disc, which will even work on your brand new Wii U. 20. The last thing we need is another King of Fighters game on the Virtual Console, let alone one that is out of order. SNK loyalists will point to the consistent production value and strong lineup of characters, but it's hard to get excited about this 1996 model when you already own the King of Fighters 97. This upload is only for the hardcore fans that collect each and every SNK release, and I'm not sure there are a whole lot more of those left on the Wii. 19. Everything I said about Metal Slug X applies to this sequel. The only reason this game ranks higher on the list is because it's an original sequel and not a remixed version of Metal Slug 2. The good news is that it's yet another solid 2D shooter. Just keep in mind that you're better off buying the Metal Slug Anthology. 18. At first glance, it looks like another flagrant attempt to double dip. After all, the Super NES version came out nearly 5 years ago. But look closer, because this Genesis port offers online multiplayer action. Sadly, this is not a good enough reason to double dip. The Genesis port doesn't look or sound as good as the arcade original, which you can enjoy on most other consoles for the same price as the 16-bitter. 17. As far as I'm concerned, there's really only one Samurai Shodown game worth buying. That's the second one. This 4th installment isn't bad, but it misses the magic found from the first 2 games. The good news is that this is a marked improvement over the dismal 3rd chapter. Samurai Shodown IV will never be the amazing fighting game I want it to be, but it gets better each and every time I'm forced to play it. 16? It's a shame Ubisoft never got around to releasing Prince of Persia Classic on the Wii. This Super NES port looks good, but the gameplay is a little hard to get used to. That's something the recent remake remedied. Once you get past the handling, Prince of Persia is a wild roller coaster ride through the deadliest dungeons imaginable. Wish you were here. 15. It's yet another Real Bout Fatal Fury game. This one is better than the regular old Real Bout, but it's not as good as Real Bout Fatal Fury 2. Let's move on. Only the diehard SNK collectors are going to buy Real Bout Fatal Fury Special. 14. Shock Troopers may not plow original ground, but it does have enough new ideas to warrant the $9 price tag. If you're a fan of Commando, Mercs, or Akari Warriors, then you owe it to yourself to play one of the best examples of this genre. The gameplay may not be very deep, but I have a hunch you'll be blown away by the amount of content found on this tiny download. 13! Sengoku 2 will not convince you that 2D brawlers are anything more than a guilty pleasure, but that shouldn't keep you away from experiencing this truly twisted time-traveling beat-em-up. Right from the get-go, you'll be bombarded with giant dragons and walking fish heads, and if that isn't enough for you, the game takes a wild turn by introducing time travel. Needless to say, this is one brawler you shouldn't immediately write off. 12. Questionable punctuation aside, Ninja Masters is a solid fighting game with some genuinely good ideas. Each character has their own weapon and they can pull them out at any time, giving the fighter a new set of moves to master. Many of the game's more interesting elements have been pilfered by other popular fighting games, including PlayStation-era Mortal Kombat games. This may not be a must-buy, but it shouldn't keep you from looking into the crazy history of Ninja Masters. 11. Forget Metal Slug, bring me another Shock Troopers game. While not as universally loved, I have a soft spot for this Mercs clone. The 3D polygons complement the sprites, creating a look that's unique to the sequel. Even in the midst of the cliché boss battles and backdrops, this impressive sequel manages to find a way to make it all feel fresh. Shock Troopers Second Squad may be a shallow experience, but it's a roller coaster ride full of explosions and cartoonish figures. 10. It's the SNK fighter that everybody writes off. As it turns out, World Heroes Perfect is both goofy and fun. The cast of characters is ridiculous, and you know what? It's in a completely lovable way. Best of all, the backgrounds fight back. If you can get past the obvious nods to Street Fighter II, you'll discover some genuinely good gameplay ideas. World Heroes Perfect definitely deserves a place on this list. 9? While I love the goofiness of World Heroes Perfect, you can't go wrong with the King of Fighters 97. This is SNK at the top of their game, delivering an impressive roster and incredible graphics. In a year full of fighting games, the King of Fighters 97 is one of the best. If only SNK could have borrowed Super Street Fighter II's netcode. 8! It's easy to write off Double Dragon 2 as just another 8-bit brawler, but that would be doing a great disservice to this ambitious action game. Double Dragon 2 mixes different types of street brawling to keep the story fresh, full of variety and intrigue. There are even a few noteworthy set pieces. The fight in the back of the cargo plane is not to be missed. 7. One of SNK's finest fighting games finally found its way onto a current generation console, and not a moment too soon. Beyond the explosive gameplay, the visuals are second to none. You can feel every hit and the backgrounds are alive with detail. It's a stunning accomplishment that probably should be higher on the list. Unfortunately, there's another Last Blade entry keeping this stellar fighting game at number 7. 6! Mega Man fans had reason to be depressed last year. Not only did Capcom pull the plug on Mega Man Universe, but the much-anticipated Mega Man Legends 3 was cancelled in the worst way possible. It seemed like all hope was gone. Thankfully, Capcom rushed out Mega Man X2, the 16-bit sequel that went a long way to remind us that the Blue Bomber used to be cool. This may not heal all of the wounds, but Mega Man X2 deserves to be the 6th best Virtual Console game of 2012. 5. As it turns out, Super Hang-On isn't as outdated as many feared. Not only does this Sega racer look good for its age, but it runs silky smooth on the Virtual Console. It's not an especially deep game, and yet I found myself coming back to Super Hang-On long after I'd completed the review. In a year full of 2D fighting games, this Sega racing game stands out for all the right reasons. 4. Talk about fighting game overload. This is the 12th fighting game on the list. And that's just on the Virtual Console. Let's not forget about Dead or Alive 5 and Tekken Tag Tournament 2 and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure HD Ver and the Marvel vs. Capcom Origins and Persona 4 Arena, and so many others. At this point, I don't blame you for having fighting game fatigue. 3. This is the type of game Nintendo should be releasing on the Virtual Console every week. Monster World 4 is a lost gem, the type of game that hardcore Sega fans haven't played. It's like unearthing a hidden Beatles album or a Orson Welles movie. Any worries you had that is not going to hold up are instantly erased when you step into this gorgeous, gorgeous sprite-based world. Even with a slightly inflated price tag, Monster World 4 is one of the best games of the year. 2. Strider is Capcom at their 16-bit best. While not the deepest game on the list, Strider makes up for that with all-out energy and inventive twists and turns. This is a wild ride where you battle robot gorillas and big dinosaur, flying ships, and Chun-Li lookalikes. And don't even get me started on the anti-gravity stage. The capper is the hero of the beast, Strider Hiyru. Not only can he harness an army of robot animals, but he has the single greatest video game sword of all time. Strider is a real contender for the best Virtual Console game of the year. Number 1! It's official. SNK had the best year ever. This year they delivered 16 of the 25 games on the list, filling in all kinds of gaps in the Neo Geo's library. With so many SNK games on the list, I guess it shouldn't surprise anybody that they also took the top spot. Here we have Last Blade 2, the one SNK fighting game that's not getting tons of unnecessary re-releases. The backgrounds are visually stunning, the fighters are ferocious, the engine itself is extraordinarily deep, and every inch of it feels polished. This is SNK at their best. Much of 2012 felt like we were just filling in the gaps. We already had a bunch of Fatal Fury games, so why not release the rest of them? And why not throw in a Genesis version of Super Street Fighter 2 for good measure? It's not like anybody wants Earthbound or Uniracers or something else that's been unreleased for 7 years. The Last Blade 2 stood above the rest of the pack by offering an experience you can't get on any other current generation console. It gave the Virtual Console meaning this year,